Welcome to Thinking Thursday, episode 4, with your host, Chris Sauls. Hey guys, I am back. And my thoughts for this week and what I woke up with today was thinking about remote work and the F words. Now, for some of you right off the bat, that title has probably already said Chris is about to do something he would not do in a live stream. And you're probably correct. All right, so we're going to talk about the F words and we're going to talk about remote work and what I kind of have sat back on and thought about over the years of doing remote work and then seeing what's going on in the big businesses today, in many businesses where they're requiring workers to come back into the office. And I can tell you that I do not agree with that every employee, nor do I agree with mass sending everybody back to an office. Don't care what your political affiliation, don't care what your company is, don't care if you're the leader making that decision. I think you need to really sit back and think about and look at the bottom line and get off of this thing that we've got a lot of managers out there, my age and a little older, that have never learned how to manage or lead a remote workforce. Not calling anybody out other than myself because I was there as well, not understanding how to lead a remote workforce. And there is a lot to be done to that. I actually worked for a company that I felt like did a great job at that. I'm not going to call them out, but I will just say that they had a culture and a method that they were working on. It was a work in progress, it was an iterative process to be a remote workplace. But for those of you that have allowed employees to do that and they've set up a lifestyle where they're able to spend more time with their family, they're able to do more of their hobbies, they're able to enjoy life better, and then you come back and put them into a 1 hour commute or those things, I think you just need to rethink it. Now, do I think there are times where people need to be in the office? Yes. So I'm not polarly opposed to being in an office. I just think that the reason why we're seeing this language and everything about driving everybody back into a workplace because of productivity issues, that is not related to that these employees cannot get the job done from home, because I have seen productivity rise for employees that went home. March the 13th, 2020, I watched a organization go from being fully in the office to their entire technology staff and a lot of their other staff go remote. The productivity of their technology staff and of many of their other departments rose. Now, that was a different time. That was 2020. That was during the what we would call a COVID year. But that didn't have to change, because what was happening then, people were staying connected. They were continuing to have faith in those that they worked with. They were forgiving of mistakes. You remember those F words I was talking about? That is where I wanted to go. You have to trust your employee base. If you hired somebody and they require being 20 feet from your door to be able to get the job done, then I think there could be a problem there on both sides. One is that person may have come to work there for maybe the wrong reason. Maybe they just came because they learned that it was a place that paid well and would take care of them, and getting fired, another F word, was something that did not happen there. And I have worked for those companies where trying to get what I would call unproductive, or better yet, people that needed to find other positions that they were more well suited for, that would actually help them be better themselves, they didn't do it. They did not do those things. I've heard Gary Vaynerchuk make this statement. He says, if you hire, you need to be able to fire fast. You got to be able to look at your staff and look at that. So I was back to the remote, though. The key elements here in the remote workspace for me, things that I would think, things that I'm thinking about, things that I believe others should think about. When you're remote, you've got to have that trust. You just, it can't be blind trust. It can be trust but verify. I will agree with that. I don't think anybody wants to go with blind trust. I think that could be haphazard in itself. But I do believe that you have to trust first, and allow the employee to get used to your leadership style, your management style, and the culture of the company. And on that process, what does that mean? 90 days? I know a lot of companies have a 90-day onboarding period where they do all these functions and things and they get you up to speed and all that. But there's also that thing of having faith that you made the right decision hiring that person and having faith in them, staying connected to them, follow up with them, lean forward and lean into them as they're doing that onboarding, or if they've been there a long time and now you're a new leader and maybe you came in from the outside, lean into them and work with them to build the future. Another F word: building the future, forward thinking, leaning in, trust. Here's a big one: forgiveness. Okay, personal story: working with a team, built a lot of rapport, worked with them, came up one time, had a situation, things didn't go right. Been asking for something for more days than I should have had to ask. Again, expectation on my side, having faith that they would provide it, but they didn't. And I got there on the day and needed to deliver some information, which I had been asking for. And it was something that I didn't feel like was too difficult. But the other thing was, to be honest with you, we're busy and busy with work, like busy with productive work. And this was not really what I would call productive work, but it was one of those things as a manager, leader. When you're managing resources, sometimes you need reporting to be able to show status. And I needed the report. Well, I came into a team meeting and I did something that I hadn't done before. And, I came in there with a little level of fury, per se, and kind of laid everybody out. 30 minutes later, I had my report. Now, looking back, I didn't need to come in there with the fury. That was not the approach that I should have taken. And I also then kind of rubbed a lot of people with the rapport thing. I put everybody into shock that, oh my gracious, this guy's just like every other leader that's ever been here. He's not this person thinking about the future. He's not forgiving. He is not having faith that we will deliver. He's also, going down all of these things, like they created that list, right? So that afternoon, I had to do what I believe any good leader has to do: pulled them back together, apologized for my behavior, did breakout rooms with them to discuss the issues, had them bring back their list of expectations for when we have issues like that, and then work through my expectation of what do I do as a leader when I've made a request, I've put it on the list, people have picked it up and they've put it back, picked it up and put it back, but no one's produced it. What's the answer that you would like for me to, how do you would like to me, for me to handle that situation? Now, I'm not going to say that every leader needs to do that and every manager out there, and I'm not going to say that I handled everything correctly. What I am going to say is having forgiveness was what they had for me. They forgave me for that incident. Why? Because I trusted them and I had faith in them that they would produce, but I had to then build that trust back. You have to do these things in a remote workplace. It's a lot easier to see it in the workplace, guys. When you're down the hallway and you see two people have a confrontation, it's really easy to see the contentious part of that and know that you're not a part of it. But when you're remote and you're in a meeting and there's a bunch of people and then you're like, hey, we got to get this done, and you call everybody out, well, you can't bounce on it. They're included. Everybody's there. The whole place is there. Everybody's there to listen. You've got to work through these things. So for remote work, number one, have faith that you have hired the right people and that you have the right people on your team. Look to the future for what those teams members and what other teams need. Think about the future of that organization. Think about the future of that team. What do you need as the leader or the manager to lead them to so that they can be the best team that they can be? Be forgiving. in the times when things go wrong. If you work in technology, which is really who my audience is, who I speak to, where my heart's been for 3 decades, be forgiving when those mistakes happen. Now, I know there's going to be critical things that come up, and there's going to be times where, it's just a business, like a rule has been broken or a boundary has been broken that we would call unforgivable per se, potentially because of security or a violation of a core policy within the company, those types of things. You've got to work within that. But also remember, all rules, all rules can be bent at times. And every company I've ever worked for is so funny to listen to say these rules cannot be broken, these policies cannot be broken. But yet they're bent at the will of those further up in the chain of command, per se. They're bent at times to get products out. They're bent at times to meet customer expectations. And I don't mean that they're violating the policy. I'm saying that there's room for interpretation suddenly, where on individual contributors there's not. So if you're a leader, a manager, you need to stand up for your folks when that happens. You need to at least voice it. Yes, I know some of you out there, it might be a struggle to think, man, I'm not putting my career on the line for Jane, Jack, John, Jimmy, all the J's that you can come up with. By the way, anybody that's named with a J, don't take offense to that. It just happened to be what came to my mind. You've got to stand up for them. And as a leader, you've got to know how to do that. And this comes back to thinking about the future, being forthcoming with information to your senior leaders, the leaders that are leading you. Lean into that. So if you're working with a remote team, stay connected. My biggest suggestion is to stay connected. Lean into your team. Learn who they are, what they're for. Learn why they came to work there, because that's important. And don't forget that you're all in it to win it at that company. You're not there just to, per se, collect a paycheck. You're there to win it for that company. If you're in a department and your metrics are to have uptime of 99.999%, then work toward that goal. It could be an iterative goal. Iteration will get you there. Look and find the things that get you to those outcomes that the company's looking for. Build that team and build that rapport. And if you have faith in them, and you will be forgiving, whereas they have to be forgiving back to you, because that is a reciprocity process, you can have the impact that you want to have, and you can build a good team. And it does not take a team full of unicorns. If you're curious what that means, you can look up Coach K has a book. If you know, Coach K has a book, The Gold Standard. And that was when he was coaching the Olympic team that had Michael Jordan and all the other greats on it. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, all of these folks, right? I think that's correct. All of those folks are in there. He had to learn how to take people that had massive careers, massive egos, and he also had to make hard decisions, because some were not going to be team players regardless. And he had to figure that out. So you don't need a team of unicorns. You need a cohesive team where their strengths lift each other. The right people in the right roles, caring for each other and moving the needle forward. And if you're working with remote teams, it's very, very critical that you lay out your team where the strengths are all lifted, and find out what your gaps are. Because sometimes you'll lean on one person for a gap, and you'll lean on them way too hard because they're doing the one thing that nobody else in the team wants to do. And that person could get burnt out. All right, so that's my remote team. Just thoughts from today. Again, like I said, this is a free-flowing conversation for me out of my head. It's kind of like a brain dump of things that I've seen in the remote workforce, things that I believe. and hopefully things that will help each and every one of you that are leading remote teams, but are leading a technology team anywhere. Because it doesn't just work in a remote environment, it works in the office environment as well. I just have spent a good portion of my time in my career working remotely. And I do believe it offers some unique ability for having a better life. All right. You guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves. That was Thinking Thursday with Chris Sauls. Hey, comment, like, share. Let me know topics you would like for me to cover in Thinking Thursday in technology. Again, I've been on the infrastructure side, the software development side, the customer service side of technology over my career. 5 different verticals, automated meter reading. I mean, I could give you a resume, but I don't think that's really what you need. But the question is, my ask to you is, what questions do you have about working in the current technology industry, which is changing rapidly, by the way? I did not say my one phrase today. If you're not working on AI or you're not studying AI right now and you're in the technology field, please, please do yourself a favor, get involved in the AI arena. That field is going to, the technology industry is going to evolve rapidly. And it is already evolving rapidly, and things that we have done and the way we have done it for years is going to change. And it is going to change in the next 3 years more than it's probably changed in the last 10. So do not get left behind. Okay, back to my ask. If there's any questions or things you would like for me to think about and then comment upon or bring up in my Thinking Thursday, please leave it there. Appreciate everybody that's been watching. Talk to you guys next time. Have a wonderful week. See you next week.